Okay, it is the end of the session, and this is Mishka's roadmap to success. Now, I was telling the Guardians I do two types of sessions. I do dog behavior sessions, and I do dog psychology session. This is a dog psychology session. This is probably maybe 1 or 2% of my clients, but I love it because it really helps me, allows me to help dogs come out of a darker place, pun intended in this case, and into the light. So Mishka, having her eyes removed due to glaucoma, it happened later in life, and she was rescued, and her guardians got her, I believe, right after the surgery. Is that correct?
Yes.
So she'd probably been losing her eyesight for quite a while, but then that's a very invasive thing to have happen, and then to be rehomed. We don't know if she was in the shelter for a while or what the deal was. A lot of people worry about what happened to their dog in the past. Even if you guess 100% right, you'll never know, because if the person was abusing the dog, they would never tell you. And the great thing about dogs is they live in the now. Most of us handicap our dogs and force them to stay in the past, or try to unintentionally. But by letting dogs grow and come forward, we're able to help them come out. And like I said, as long as you're not still abusing the dog or doing something bad, the dog gets over things faster than we do. So, all right, so in the other video, the video above this, we talked about the using the scent towel. I'm going to talk about a little bit about that and some other things that we went over. I'm going to leave Through a Dark Silence here, which is a great book for dogs that are blind or deaf, and has a lot of tips and suggestions. One of the things I like the Guardian to do is get a bell for her on her collar, so it helps other animals know that she's coming nearby, and if she were to happen to get off leash or run away, it makes it easier for us to find her. Now, when you have a blind or deaf dog, and you try to, a lot of us, especially humans, we want to touch the dog and pet the dog to let it know that we feel comfortable. If it doesn't like our presence to begin with, or doesn't trust us, touching them is only going to spark moving them away from us. So what we've been doing here is we have the dog walker who actually has done a lot of really unorthodox things today on my request, and she's been great with it. But basically, at this point, I'm not going to show her, but she's lying on the floor right here in front of me, and Mishka is lying next to her. And at times has rested her chest on her arm. She's touched her with a paw. Before I came, the only interaction they had was initial greeting where it wasn't great, and then she's tried to toss some treats, and she's been around, but she's been really patient with the dog and not trying to force the issue, which is really important. So for the roadmap to success for her, one of the things I'd like the dog walker to do is start coming by on, because the Guardians are going to go on a trip in about a month. And so we need to set her up in a couple weeks? In a week, okay.
8 days.
In a week, so we really have to accelerate this. So what I would like to do is have the dog walker come by twice a day, ideal, but we're asking a lot for the dog walker, so hopefully she'll get a good tip for this. And we want to basically have her come by and spend some time. We were able to get Mishka to take some treats off of her hand, which has never happened before. We're using the towel, and that really helped. We kind of introduced the scent first, and then the contact is followed. But we're letting the dog initiate the contact, and that's a very healthy thing, because the dog feels more empowered, and I can move away, and the human doesn't follow me. And then I can come back to the human, I touch the human, they don't touch me back. So what I'd like to have happen is have the dog walker come by a couple of times. I'm not saying her name because I never say anybody's names, but if she likes, in this write-up, I will link her company name if she likes. If you have a dog in Santa Monica, I really like her energy. I've never seen her walk dogs, but I really like what she's bringing to the table. All right, so basically what I have her doing is she's laying on the ground. At first we literally put treats on her. Well, first we were having her eat it out of her hands, but then we had her lay down. For dogs, the higher we stand, the more authoritative we are. So by laying down, we're at the same level as the dog, and that I think really helped as well. Also, we did it in stages. When she came over, she first was kneeling on the floor. The dog walker was here. The dog was here. She scooched for a little bit forward. We were tossing treats at first. Then we were leaning over, let her take the treats. Then we laid her feet down. We're tossing treats next to her. You okay?
Yeah, she's sleeping.
She's snoring. Oh, she's laying down and snoring. Again, if a dog will sleep next to someone, and this is, I'm glad this happened, because I wouldn't have remembered this. One of the things I like when I bring a dog into my house and it's very fearful, and I'm taking it away from their guardian so I can kind of really work with it and clear the cortisol out of their blood, I find that when the dog actually goes to sleep, and then it has to be a certain comfort level to go to sleep in the first place, but when it goes to sleep and it wakes up, it seems to be a little bit of a transformation. I slept, I was completely vulnerable. So a dog won't sleep if they're not trusting. So this is a really good sign. We've had a lot of really good signs, but then when they wake up, I was completely vulnerable and they did not take advantage of me. That's a big leap in trust. So that alone should really help. So if we can have the dog walker, if she has the time to come and stay until the dog sleeps, that'd be great. Probably not going to be too practical for that. But if we could just have her lay down on the floor, Give some treats periodically and letting the dog come to her. And again, one of the things I try to do is get the dog coming a little bit forward. So we put the treat in front of her nose and then have the dog kind of lean forward and then lick it off the hand. But we want the dog eventually to come a little bit closer and a little bit closer to the dog walker. And moving forward is how dogs get over things. Now we can do little tricks, like sometimes I'll put a treat on my hand, I'll blow over it, so I blow the scent towards the dog. She has a very good sense of smell, which is great for, when we lose one sense, we tend to get heightened senses in other regards, and she certainly has that. I'd like the dog walker to lay down, the guardian to lay down on the couch and have the dog between the two of them. If the dog walker feels inclined, she can sing. She might sing a song or two, something nice and soothing, and feeding her some treats, not touching her really unless the dog's touching her first. And then eventually the dog walker is going to, after whatever the period of time, the dog walker leaves in a very calm and quiet manner. And we're going to do that for about 3 days in a row, and we're going to change this up a little bit because we're leaving a week. So like the fourth day, what I'd like to do, and if you could come by a couple times, that would be great and really jumpstart this process. The more exposure, the better. And then basically after the dog walker's been here lying down and the dog is laying down and relaxed, not breathing heavy, and just looks nice and comfortable, not stiff, maybe the fourth or fifth after the fourth or fifth visit, I'd like the primary guardian who's filming this now to get up and leave the house, go sit on the street and wait for 5 minutes, then come back inside, not make any production or do anything. And I'd like her to kind of text or call me and let me know how that goes. That'll probably be Tuesday, I'm guessing. And then see how that goes. We might need to make some adjustments. But the idea is I want to create kind of a commonality between the guardian and the dog walker as a constant presence. Then I want to start practicing having the dog walker being the only presence. So we create a positive association first, and then the guardian leaves. The dog walker is laying on the floor. She's continuing to sing. So again, we have another constant. The dog probably won't take treats at that point. We can offer a couple times, but don't offer too much. Just be passive about it. And then we would like to ideally be nice if the dog could lay down and resign itself. And usually when there's a big change in emotion, they have a big exhale. And, that's a good sign. Usually that kind of resonates with them. So we'd like to have the guardian leave at first for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, next time 5 to 7 minutes or to 10 minutes. Each time is a little bit longer and a little bit longer. It'd be nice before the guardians actually go out of town to do kind of a dry run, maybe the day before you leave or 2 days before you leave, where you go out to dinner or something a little bit longer where we can have the dog walker here. And the dog walker needs to eat first, and so she can be very quiet and calm and just kind of sit here. Classical music is a very soothing thing for dogs. But we'd like to have the dog just lay down and be comfortable with the dog walker here by herself. Now, some of the other things I want the dog walker to do is before we leave, she's going to grab some food, and she's going to take food, put it in her hands, and she's going to put it into a Ziploc bag, and so that the guardian can actually start feeding her that food, which will have the dog walker scent, which is another way of bringing her closer to the dog walker without the dog walker being present. Now, I mentioned in the other video about the treats on the ground. We're going to start off with just the high-value Tricky Trainer chicken liver treats, but then we're going to start sprinkling a little bit of the food that we just talked about on there as well. So the dog's going to start eating and smelling her, and is practicing being next to her, laying next to her. Hopefully there's more and more touch. If the dog starts touching and much more comfortable, then ideally, it'd be nice for the first couple of times the dog walker actually does this. It's just kind of like when the dog's laying down if the dog's laying here, just kind of have my hand here and then just touch maybe just this part, just my knuckle. Just touch the dog, and no caressing, just a little bit of touch. And then the dog stays calm. We could try to push it, maybe go to 2 knuckles or 3, but that's about it. The first couple of times, all we want her to do is touch without the dog recoiling and moving away. If the dog moves away, don't call it back, don't chase it, don't grab it, let it do its own thing. But ideally, we'd like the dog to get more and more comfortable so the dog walker can touch with the whole arm, and then eventually touch and do a little bit of petting and scratching. And so hopefully by the time the guardians actually go out of town, the dog walker can actually spend some time petting and interacting with the dog in a good, positive way. Let me see, what else do we want to go over?
You mentioned a halo as well. The halo, but I don't know if that's something that should come before we leave. That's probably
the halo.
Oh,
the halo. I'm thinking. Sorry, we have some accents here. This is a very European, very international dog behavior session that we're having, or dog psychology session. There's something called a halo that you can get for dogs that are blind. What it is basically looks like almost like a basketball hoop that extends around the dog's head this way. Now the dog's standing up, so it's not going to be upright, it's going to be parallel, but it's like referred to as a bumper. And it's attached, it kind of has this shape. It's circular, and then it has some kind of straight edges on the end. They have a harness for it, and there's little sleeves that this slides into on this side and this side. So when the dog comes forward, if it bumps into something, it sends feedback to the dog's shoulder so it knows I'm about to bump into something, and it prevents them from actually making physical contact. Now, when you have a blind dog, you want to make sure you don't move things around. I was very impressed with Mishka because we moved a chair for the dog walker to sit on. Mishka got up and got a drink of water, which is a great sign that she was comfortable. When she came back, she kind of sensed the chair and moved around it. But when you have a blind dog, you don't want to really move stuff around. You want them to create a roadmap in their head so they kind of can navigate on their own. There's also, when you're walking, you want to walk them on the same path so that they kind of know. They'll sense, I smell eucalyptus tree, I can smell this, and they start to get their bearings by scent and other sensory feedback. Now, one of the things that we did is we went for a walk. And on the walk, what we found is one of the guardians, Mishka, is very comfortable with. The other guardian she's comfortable with, but doesn't like walking with him on her own. So what we did on the walk is we took Mishka out for a walk with the dog walker, the primary guardian, and the guardian that she will accept contact from, but doesn't want to walk alone. What we did was we had the primary guardian walking the dog initially. And then what we had is basically the leash was passed to the other guardian very subtly, so she didn't realize what was going on. And then she figured it out, but we had the primary guardian move a little bit ahead. So she was calling to Mishka to get Mishka to move forward. So she was with us on the walk, but each time she was a little bit further ahead of us, a little bit further ahead of us. This is something the guardian can do on a regular basis so that we get used to. The dog, again, likes to get over things by moving forward, and she's moving towards the guardian that she likes. The second guardian is there with the leash, and because we're still all together in a group, even though the primary guardian isn't holding it, her presence is there. And then basically what I like the guardians to do is when they walk on future walks to start out the same way, with the leash starts with the primary guardian, is past the secondary guardian, and then the primary guardian starts walking ahead of us a little bit further, a little bit further. Now we can do things, if she does start shutting down, the primary guardian can do little tricks. So she can take, we don't want to burn her hand, but maybe we go over to a certain part of the sidewalk 2 or 3 paces ahead and like rub our hand 2 or 3 times on the sidewalk. And then the other guardian brings her over to that and lets her smell it. Okay, I'm on the scent towards her. So we get her literally moving forward, but she's going to chase, essentially, not chasing, running, but following after her primary guardian, and it gives the secondary guardian the opportunity to walk her. And then this is something where we could have the dog walker incorporated as well, and we definitely need to do that before the guardians go out of town on vacation, because when you have a blind or deaf dog, sometimes people's natural reaction is to feel sorry for them, but we don't want them to be sedate. The more stimulation we can get for their other senses, the more alive and awake they're going to feel. We also want to activate, make sure that they have a robust hunger and things along those lines. So smelling things. When I have a regular dog behavior session, I want the dog walking next to me in a heel position and a lot more structured. For Mishka, as long as it's safe, we want her to kind of go wherever her nose allows her to go. Now, does she like other dogs?
Yeah, she tends to bark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for a lot of dogs, if you're blind or deaf and you don't know how to deal with it, a lot of dogs bark and act aggressive to other dogs to ward them off and get them to leave her alone or them alone. And so we don't want to push that. It would be nice if we could find a nice dog with a nice balanced energy that she could interact with and play with. But it's hard because she has some limitations. So it might need to be an older dog. You might want to check with some rescue groups. She's navigated by the chair again. She's doing great. She's going to get just moving away, but she's moving away in a very casual way. When dogs are really nervous or anxious, they won't take treats, they won't sit down, they won't lay down. The fact that she was laying down next to the dog walker, and not only laying down, but touching her, and she did it twice. This is about to be, once she gets a drink of water, she's probably going to come back and lay down next to her a third time. She also went to sleep next to her, woke up. All these things should lead to her feeling more and more comfortable with her. Let me see, anything else I'm forgetting?
Let me check my list.
We're checking the list twice.
Did you talk about prepping food and dispersing?
Yes, I did talk about the prepping the food. So we want to make sure we keep that in that Ziploc bag, and that's what we'll want to feed her until you guys leave, so it has the dog walker's scent on it.
We're going to get the training leash as well.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people, they have had a dog, and they're like, oh, I'm good with dogs. And they just go up and they think touching and petting the dog is the appropriate thing. If we have a blind or deaf dog, that's very startling for them to be touched. I asked the guardian earlier if there's a special place that she starts to touch. We like to a lot of times start on the flank or somewhere around here where there's this initial touch point. so that we could touch the dog there and then start caressing the other parts of the body. So that's where I expect. So if I get touched in this little spot here, I know it's going to be a caress. If I'm touched here, it's unexpected. I don't know. So that commonality can be comforting. We can also use different things like tones and touch as commands. You can like maybe touch 3 times to mean calm down. And I'm going to leave Through Dark Silence here so the guardians can read through it. There's a lot of little tricks and tips that they can use. And we might actually, if the dog walker would like, we might leave it for her longer and then they can mail it back to me, or I can pick it up later sometime down the road. There's a lot of little tricks and tips in there. So Mishka came over, she kind of stopped on the carpet, at the edge of the carpet, and just kind of checking things out. We'll see if she comes back. She's thinking about it. She's walking right towards the dog walker, sniffing her head, going around, she's navigating around. Oh no, she's like, I'm going underneath the table. Normally I can't go under here because there's chairs here. So this is a good sensation for her. Mishka. Oh, Mishka. Mishka. She just went underneath the chair. Good navigation. Oh, here she goes. She comes to the dog walker. This is not the most exciting footage. People at home are watching me just narrate what a dog is doing. It doesn't sound all that exciting. But it's really, these are good signs. I'm very happy with the session. It's kind of ironic because when I do other sessions, we make leaps and bounds with dog nuisance behavior. When you have a dog that has these sort of limitations, it's a lot of little steps. It's one of the things I did suggest the guardians do is actually get start a journal. Sometimes little things, you won't, little milestones you'll miss. You'll just kind of take it for granted. You won't recognize all the little steps and jumps that your dog takes. Also, it's important that we give ourselves a bit of a break. It's very stressful when we have a dog that's blind or deaf, and we sometimes beat ourselves up, and we're very upset with ourselves if we make a mistake or things like that. Dogs are very forgiving, and so sometimes it's important we take, make sure the dog's in a safe place, but go away ourselves for dinner. And the guardians are going on vacation, so hopefully this is a vacation. Yes. So they should be able to recharge their batteries, and I think they're going to feel a lot more comfortable knowing now that the dog walker feels more comfortable being with the dog. I would like to show you the dog walker's face, but we don't show anybody's faces in these videos. But she's got a big smile on her face, and it's a loving sort of smile. I'm sure she's very happy with it. Mishka's actually, I would say she's staring at her. Obviously, she's not. But I think the more that we can associate the different contacts, whether it's verbal, the singing, the scent, the touch, and the more that the dog guardian, actually that's another thing I'd like to go over. We like to have the dog walker, this is going to sound really weird, lay on the ground in different parts of the room, especially in areas that Mishka lays down on. We normally wear socks and shoes. It would be nice because we sweat through our feet for the dog walker to walk around barefoot. So again, we're putting more of her scent on the ground, and that's making it more communal or more common for the dog, and it's a calming presence. We tried some scents, but it was, I think, overwhelming for her, and I don't think we really needed it. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? If the guardians have any questions, they can always text. I'm going to leave my number with the dog walker, so she can always reach out to me if she has questions directly as well and shoot me a text message. Text is the fastest way to reach me when I'm on the road. I sometimes don't return voicemails right away, but a text message I'll be able to see and get back to you right away. All right, well, normally I would have Mishka here with me in this picture, but Mishka is laying on the floor comfortably. Actually, let's pan down and just show a little Mishka. You can just go down and you won't show the dog walker's face. But the fact that she's touching the dog walker's arm right there, and she's asleep and she's calm, this is the second time she's gone to sleep, are all amazing, amazing progress markers that we're very happy about. All right, well, this is David with Doggone Problems for Mishka's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.